Sit back, relax. If you're into true crime, bloody, gruesome, sadistic stories, you have reached the right place here at Volcanic Minds TV. We dig deep into the earth crevice and come up with the most unmanageable stories across the nation. The creepiest and most gruesome aspects of Halloween are rooted in its ancient origins, which involves beliefs about death, the supernatural, and appeasing malevolent spirits. Here are 10 terrifying murders committed on Halloween night. Number 1. Ronald O'Brien has been called the man who killed Halloween and the Candy Man. On Halloween in 1974, 8-year-old Timothy O'Brien returned to his Houston home from a long night of trick-or-treating. His father, Ronald, gave him one last piece of candy, a pixie sticks, which Timothy ate instantly. Within moments, the boy was vomiting, and he died on the way to the hospital. After changing his story multiple times, police learned that Ronald was responsible for his son's death as he had poisoned the candy with cyanide. Turns out, Ronald was in debt and had taken out a life insurance policy on his children. A year later, he was found guilty of a murder, and he was given the death penalty by lethal injection, Vice reports. The murder left its mark, though. Parents today still check their kids' candy to see if it's been tampered with. Number 2. Two friends, Leslie and Matsura and Adrian Insogna, were stabbed late one Halloween night. Leslie Matsura, Adrian Insogna, and their friend Laura Mianza were busy handing out candy to trick-or-treaters at their Napa, California, home on Halloween night 2004. At around 11 p.m., the three women went to bed, not knowing that there would be one more visitor that night. Mianza awoke to a scream from the upstairs bedrooms, ran out of the house, and drove away, leaving her two friends behind. Matsara and Insogna, both 26, were stabbed to death upstairs. Eric Matthew Koppel, a friend of one of the victims, eventually turned himself in and confessed to the murders, though he never told anyone his motive, the Napa Valley Register reports. Koppel is serving a life sentence without the possibility of parole. Number 3. The Toolbox Killers murdered for the last time on Halloween night 1979. In 1979, Shirley Ledford was hitchhiking home from a Halloween party when two men picked her up in a dingy van. Little did she know that the two men were known as the Toolbox Killers. Lawrence Bittaker, Pictured, and Roy Norris were famous for picking up female hitchhikers and then torturing them with tools typically found in a toolbox, according to New York Daily News. They often took pictures of their victims during the slayings. After torturing Ledford, they dropped her body on a stranger's lawn. Ledford became the pair's fifth and final victim after a friend turned them in. Bittaker was sentenced to death, but died in 2019 of natural causes, NBC reports. Norris, who cooperated in the investigation, was given 45 years to life. Number 4. Martha Moxley died after attending a Halloween party. The night before Halloween in 1975, 15-year-old Martha Moxley left her Connecticut home to attend a costume party. On Halloween morning, she was found dead in the backyard, beaten to death by a golf club, according to the New York Times. 25 years later, Michael Skakel, who was also 15 at the time of the slaying, was convicted of the murder and sentenced to 20 years to life in prison. He maintained his innocence, and on May 4th, 2018, the Connecticut Supreme Court vacated his conviction. In 2020, CNN reported that the case was reopened to the public. Number 5. A Japanese exchange student in 1992 never made it to his Halloween party. When Yoshihiro Hattori, a Japanese exchange student, went out on Halloween night in 1992, he was heading to a party in New Orleans. Unfamiliar with the neighborhood, Hattori struggled to find the address of the event. When he eventually thought he found the house, he knocked. When he got no answer, he walked back toward his car. Suddenly, the door of the house opened, and Hattori said, "We are here for the party." But the man in the doorway shot Hattori with a revolver. Turns out, Hattori was at the wrong address. When police questioned the homeowner, Rodney Pierres, Pictured, he claimed that he had been scared and that he thought the student was trespassing on his property with criminal intent, according to Japan Today. Pierres was charged with manslaughter, but invoked the Castle Doctrine, in which Americans claim they have the right to apply lethal means to protect their homes, and was found not guilty by a jury. Sometimes I feel like he's still in America. Hattori's father told Japan Today in 2012. Someday he'll come back home, I say to myself. Number 6. Peter Fabiano died in what police said was a crime of passion in the late 50s. When Peter and Betty Fabiano went to sleep Halloween night in 1957, they thought they were finished with trick-or-treaters. But in the middle of the night, the doorbell of their Los Angeles home rang. Peter got out of bed and brought candy to the door. On the doorstep was a woman wearing a mask. She raised her hand, which was in a paper bag, and shot him in the chest. He died instantly. According to the Los Angeles Times, police eventually arrested a woman named Joan Rabel, who reportedly had a sexual relationship with Peter's wife, Betty. It's believed Rabel talked another woman, Goldine Pizer, into murdering Peter. Rabel was convicted of second-degree murder, along with Pizer, and was sentenced to 5 years to life in prison, and both women were later released. Betty was never tried for any connection in her husband's death. Number 7. Johnny Frank Garrett was convicted of strangling a nun to death on Halloween Eve. On October 31st, 1981, Sister Tadia Ben's body was found naked in a convent in Texas. The other nuns in the house noticed a broken window in the community room, so they called the police immediately. Authorities found Ben's clothing and a knife under the bed. Meanwhile, an autopsy revealed the nun was stabbed, strangled, and sexually assaulted. Police arrested a man who lived across the street, named Johnny Frank Garrett, after a witness saw him running from the convent that evening. He was convicted and sentenced to death in 1992. His last words were reported to be, "I'd like to thank my family for loving me and taking care of me. The rest of the world can kiss my A." Number 8. Carl Jackson was killed over an egging incident. Throwing eggs on Halloween night is typically a harmless prank, but in 1998 it turned deadly. When 21-year-old Bronx resident Carl Jackson and his girlfriend went to pick up her son from a party, teenagers threw eggs at their car. Jackson got out of the car to yell at the pranksters to stop. In response, one of the teenagers pulled out a gun and shot Jackson through the head. He died instantly, the New York Times reports. 17-year-old Curtis Sterling was charged with second-degree murder and criminal possession of a weapon. He was convicted and is serving 20 years. According to the New York Times, he receives a card in the mail every Halloween that reads, "I'm glad you're still there," from Jackson's mother. Number 9. William Lisk killed his family members on Halloween. In 2010, 16-year-old Devin Griffin came home on Halloween to play video games after attending church and spending the previous night sleeping out. He noticed the Michigan home was too quiet, so he went to check on his family members, according to the Sandusky Register. Griffin proceeded to find his stepfather in bed, covered in blood. When police arrived, they found 2 more bodies, Griffin's mother and brother. Police eventually learned the murderer was Griffin's stepbrother, William Lisk. Lisk beat his older stepbrother Derek Griffin with a hammer, shot his father William Lisk 5 times, and then sexually assaulted and shot his stepmother, Susan Lisk. Lisk pleaded guilty to 3 counts of aggravated murder to avoid the death penalty, but was found dead in his jail cell in 2015 from a self-inflicted wound. The Port Clinton News Herald reports number 10. A brutal killing on Halloween night in 1981 remains unsolved to this day. Photographer Ronald Sisman and Smith College student Elizabeth Platzman were beaten in their Manhattan apartment on Halloween night in 1981 before being shot dead. Their apartment was completely ransacked, but nothing seemed missing. The case remains unsolved.